Full disclosure, news and commentary number 72, 72, 72, 72, 72. No, 7. Fuck that up. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Full Disclosure. The commentary is a bit of a revelation that I had about the WWE. Obviously, I'm here in Florida where the WWE is a big honkin' hairy deal and they're moving into the Amway Center. And the commentary is going to have a lot more like visual things that I put into it. And it's pretty deep, but it's definitely worth sticking around for. We got a few things to go over, and then people are giving me news here at the last minute. That's why I'm putting this out a little bit later than I normally would. Plus, I try to do sort of an animation thing to highlight something that I'm talking about. I'm just not good enough with the computer yet, though I'm getting better all the time. Patreon people, you rule. What can I say? Got a new person just listed as D, and he or she has joined Patreon, which I appreciate very much. Joining the crew of Dan and Jeffrey and Derek and Brett and Diana, Southern Honor, of course, Larry, not that one, but the other one, Rob Rod, Brian, and then the three big Mac daddies, Eric the World Walker, who I saw was going to do a podcast of his own, cool, Viral Pro Wrestling, who continues to update us, but still not a show in the immediate horizon. But hopefully they will get something up and running soon. And the OG Myron, Nick and Myron, still killing it over at the Tapped Out thing. Cool. Speaking of Larry, that one, we're going to do a tipping point tomorrow. We're going to do it a little earlier than usual, and our guest is going to be Sean Dean, which I'm excited to talk to that young man. Still killing it over on AEW Dark, and we've got a Southern Honor show, the Rumblejack, coming up on the 28th. Great stuff. So Pro South, they did their go home show for Uprising, which is their big show, which is coming up on Friday. Got Jeter versus Austin Towers in a last man standing, I believe, is part of it. Eddie Honcho got the COVID. That sucks. That was not the reason the Macon charity show got canceled, though I would have looked forward to him against Simon Sermon. I'm sure that would have been entertaining to beat the band. But they're doing an outdoor show. It's something I hadn't thought of. If people are going to go to outdoor shows, then weather becomes a much bigger factor. I knew it often was for our July 4th outdoor shows in Porterdale when I was doing that PCW thing. But they canceled it, and as it turns out, wisely so. Apparently, it was just sheets of rain that would have made for a miserable experience. Todd Sexton, though, got to have his seminar with special guest Bill Behrens. And 6 people showed up. They had a few no-shows. They did not record it, unfortunately, which I was hoping they would. But not the turnout they would have liked, but I'm sure those 6 people had a great experience. And it was definitely worth attending and going to. I'm going to talk to Todd more about that, sort of privately, how he think it went, what worked, that kind of thing. WWE is in the Amway Center now, and they got it booked apparently until sometime in October. So the shows are going to be moving there. I assume they're going to be going with the Morgan Davis III idea. He was the first person I heard propose it months ago, that they can have a virtual wall of crowd, kind of like what the NBA does, that the WWE should have gone that route, and now it appears that they're going to. I just would imagine, what are you going to do, stuff 40 people in a space meant for thousands? That would look atrocious. So I assume they're going to go with some kind of video wall thing, which is good. I know that people are saying, like, because the rumor is that the WWE is blaming like the Performance Center for ratings dropping and that kind of thing, and people are saying that's ridiculous. But I think changing the venue and changing the mindset, which is a big part of my commentary that I'm going to do, is a good move. And I'm definitely on the wait and see tip. Hopefully they can keep Retribution out. Yikes. I had an Ask Platinum about somebody some smart ass asking me, how would you book Retribution, bro? And I've gotten good feedback on that. You want to check that out. For my videos, obviously Raw is tonight. Let's hope it goes well. But at 7 o'clock is the semifinals of the AEW Tag Team Tournament for that cup, the Deadly Draw. So I'm going to be covering that as well. And then tomorrow will be AEW Dark. Lots of people on that, including a guy that I met when a guy named Jack Masidal killed himself. Very sad. I booked him in PCW on more than one occasion. I'd fly him in from Colorado just on the recommendation of friends of mine, and he always did a great freaking job. But he killed himself, and it's very sad. So I went to that memorial service. By the way, side note, Shane Marks did a video that they played in tribute to Jack because he wrestled Jack prominently when Jack was at PCW. And Xavier Woods did a video as well in tribute to Jack. Just really class acts. Anyway, I met this guy, Rob Risen, who I've heard great things about, and he just seems like a go-getter, and he's going to be part of AEW Dark, so I'm super excited about that. And hopefully Sean Dean's on it as well, and that kind of thing. So, good stuff. Looking forward to that. What else do I got? AEW, of course, is moving their Dynamite shows. They're moving, it won't be Wednesday, so I won't be able to report about anything until Saturday, which looks like it's going to be a big show, and it's looked like they're putting it up against TakeOver. So the war that's totally not a war continues to rage on, but it's not a war at all. They're not trying to, no. So, what else? Oh, I got news that Total Aggression Pro, which is now doing their shows in the Popham Gym, and they're doing some crossover thing with OSWA. That rumor, word on the curb, if you will, is that David Garrison wants Ryan Staples. Remember Ryan Staples, the guy who had the burner Twitter account where he was harassing women who were sort of coming out about his father and what the father had put them through in training. He defended the father by basically taking cheap shots, but then sort of rescinded that and said that was bad of him to do. Has denied that Twitter burner account was his. That Ryan Staples. So that Ryan Staples is being asked by David Garrison. He's a big heel for them. But you know, they do their like family friendliest show, I guess, if you're running in the Popham Gym and you're doing stuff with OSWA. But he wants Ryan Staples to come out with the Black Lives Matter flag to get more heel heat. What do I think about that? I don't know what to think about it. I would imagine there are a bunch of wrestlers who are not happy about that and don't see that as the move. But I'm sure David Garrison don't give a fuck. I'm looking forward to hearing, by the way, how I don't know anything about anything going on and I'm just talking out of my ass. I'm going to make a little room here because I'm going to put these pictures up here. Commentary time. So the commentary is about the WWE. Now, normally I don't talk about the national scene in commentaries, but something struck my interest. I had noticed that since I do watch Raw, that they always have the video, right? The signature video, it's called. I had to learn these things. It's called the signature video. You know, what they have to tell you you're watching a WWE product. And their tagline is currently then, now, and forever. And there was something about that seemed like they should change it. So I looked into, did a little research. So that then, now, and forever has been around for almost 2 years. It started September 24th, 2018. So we're about a month away for that thing being 2 years old. And part of my contention in this commentary is they need to change it. But it's the reasons why they need to change it. But before we can talk about that, I thought it would be interesting to look at, ever since they've been doing these signature videos, because they haven't always done them, or they were kind of nondescript. But it's really when this first logo, so let's just pop it up here. I'm waiting until 10:30, so it's an easy thing. Right here. Yeah. Remember that one? It was like the WWF floating in space, and it was empty, but then the lasers went and finished this thing in. But what was really interesting, in addition to the sort of like little bit of animation in this logo, was they would say that it was the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment. Mean Gene would say that usually. And there it was. That's the first one. That one lasted for quite a time. After all, it was a new thing that they had come up with. And then we switched to this one. I'm writing down these times to make it easier for me to edit this thing. And the tagline switched to what the world is watching. So you can see the difference in mentality, right? The first one was when they were in active competition with WCW, right? But WCW, and there were other groups, of course, but WCW wasn't like, they weren't in the Monday Night Wars yet. And so they just wanted to make it known, like, look, we're the ones, right? We're the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment. But the second logo here, then they switched to, they're beginning to transition out of this idea that we were a wrestling company and there are other wrestling companies, we just are the best wrestling company. This is when they switched their mentality towards, we're it. And so they switched the tagline to what the world is watching, which seems, in retrospect, like a little bit of whistling by the graveyard. To pretend like we're what the world is watching. They're not watching the other guys. Well, they got shook out of that tree. Right? And then you ended up with this third logo. By the way, that second logo, that second logo, they still did the logo and they still did the world is watching, but they went from Mean Gene doing the voiceover the first time to somebody else, which signifies when Mean Gene jumped to WCW. So that's just to put it in time perspective for you. So they kept everything the same except the voiceover was different because, of course, they weren't going to have Mean Gene do it anymore. He was gone. So this puts it in time for you, right? 95, 96. And then this third one that I've already popped up there, they're now the revolutionary force in sports entertainment. And they kept this throughout the Monday Night Wars. Yeah. And they had versions of it again and again and again, right? With grander voiceovers. The voiceovers would get grander. We're the revolutionary force in sports entertainment. They went from, we're the front runners, right? We're the recognized symbol of excellence. And then it's what the world is watching. But now they were in a war. And it was a war that they were losing. So then they took on the role of we're the revolutionary force. You can't be the champs and the victims, as I once told Gary Lamb and other people, right? And here was them, a sign that they were knocked off their perch. Now they're the revolutionary force. Now we have to get the cool points back, right? And they went through various forms, right? All with this tagline of the revolutionary force in sports entertainment. So let's look at them. So you got this one, obviously. Then you got this one, Pang, right? I'll let you look at that one for a while. And look at these transformations. Cool? Now let's look at this one. Boom. all with this tagline all throughout the Monday Night Wars. This is when they were really trying to find themselves. They were making adjustments all the time. They were hungry. They were fighting. Which is why it's very symbolic. Oh, here's another one. Bang. And this one in particular, it was with a much grander voiceover, right? The revolutionary force in sports entertainment. This is when they were coming out of losing the 83 weeks. But they held on throughout the Monday Night Wars. And that's, you're talking about 2-3 years here where they're holding on to this idea of we're the revolutionary force. But then they started winning again. And once they started winning again, I wish I could put the video up, but I'm afraid it would get copyright struck and then the video would come down like my Boneyard song. So sad. I still have that thing, by the way. I'll still put it up on Facebook. Boneyard, Boneyard. Dope. Anyway, then we went here. Boom. Here's the voiceover. 80 countries in 7 languages. 500 million viewers each week. So they're totaling up everybody watching. Boom. The World Wrestling Federation, the worldwide leader in sports entertainment. So now they're taking their mantle back. Right? We're the leader. Got all this cool stuff. For the second one, they kept everything the same. But this is what... Remember that? And they'd have the video and they'd show the world and... I mean, it was awesome. And a clear shift. Before it was like, now they're really piling it on and naming their accomplishments. Because the war was still happening, but now they were beginning to win. So they just wanted to remind everybody. It wasn't enough to say that the world is watching and all that stuff. It was they're going to tell you, right? And then the only time that they switched it over was to emphasize that it was now 100 countries, over 100 countries in 7 languages, to over 500 million viewers each week. Awesome. But the lesson that the WWE ultimately learned through the Monday Night War was it was about what is cool. And that's when they came up with what I consider to be their best sort of video and catchphrase crossover right here. It was nothing but a series of images. Look at all this stuff. Look at all this stuff that you get. And showing all of their productions. Right? Just, we got this show and this show and this show and this show. And there's different iterations of this time. But all of them were basically showing whatever. I mean, back when they had a Tough Enough show. Back when they had, like, all that stuff. Right? And all it would flash, the only words you would see was you would see this like shadow of the logo. And then it would just say Attitude Entertainment. They didn't have to brag anymore. They didn't have to say how many countries they were in. They had won the war. And it was all about attitude. And so that's all they emphasized. They didn't have to shout out anything. And the wars were still happening. But they were clearly going to come out of it the other side, the victor. Then we have what you're used to seeing. Probably what you associate with the modern WWE right here. Remember that? They have the black and white picture. They still have a form of this. This is what we have now, right? This is the then, now, forever time. But you would have this great shit, right? They'd have the picture of the old guys working. And it's like, yes, sir, we promised you a great main event. Then they'd have a bunch of noise, and then Andre the Giant, right? WrestleMania. Hulkamania's running wild. Then they have the gong for the Undertaker, and then they have Ric Flair, and then they'd show Bret Hart, and he's like the best. And that's how. And then they have the Rock. If you smell, I mean, they just hit you with everything. They'd have the glass break. Give me a hell yeah. Then they'd have JR yelling, "The world is watching." This was the world is watching era. But it's what would become Then, Now, and Forever. And again, this was just them piling on. We've got everything that's great. We've got everything that's cool. We've always had everything that was great and cool. There's versions after versions of this, right? When during the "you're fired," they'd add that in when that was going on, and then they'd have JR do another part. By God, blah blah, he's broken in half. So they'd throw in whatever was happening and whatever was current, and they'd move it in, and they'd have different old guys go in there. My favorite version is once John Cena was put into it to close it. They would have, like in the earlier part with the old guys, they would have like Gorgeous George, and they'd show him like walking down, and they're like Freddie Blassie. So it's all these people that either they felt loyal to because of the wrestling business, like Gorgeous George. You got to mention Gorgeous George, right? Even though he never officially worked for whatever. And then Freddie Blassie, who the McMahons always had a loyalty to. Once he died, they put him in the video. Just that's when they also started using these videos to go like, you know, who's here, who's not, who do we love, who do we feel loyal to. That was part of being in the video. And then they ended it with the champ is here, and that was clearly we're in the John Cena era now. And then finally, I'm gonna have 3 pictures about this. So, boom. Yeah. No audio, right? It's just or you know, no verbal, no speaking, no singing, nothing like that, no words, but just doon doon doon, tick 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 tick, and they just take you through this series of images, just changing the pictures. Here's the new logo, boom, yeah. And then, you know, and then it would go into Then, Now, and Forever. And then you had like the really arrogant time, I call it, which is this, boom, where they would have Then and Now, and then they would show a bunch of old images, kind of similar to the generation before, the generation of videos before, when they would have like, you know, all the audio, right? Like Hulkamania, Gorgeous George, and they'd show old, but now they would just show a series of pictures and then say Then. And then a bunch of pictures of what was going on, and then they would have Now. And then they would have the logo with Forever underneath it. Because the WWE is going to be around forever, right? And they're never going away. So, let's wipe that out. So Then, Now, and Forever, they've had it for 2 years. And their video, their opening signature video, has always been a reflection of where the company was or what they wanted you to know. Here's the problem. Then, Now, and Forever has never felt more frail. And this idea of forever, you know, the WWE is making money hand over fist. There's no doubt about it. But there's nobody in their right mind, even the biggest WWE defenders, can sit there and argue that it's not dippity-doo dog shit for the most part right now. I guess you can argue with me if you want, but anybody who thinks that right now they aren't at a creative ebb, that there's never been less star power. I mean, you know, Dominic Mysterio sit there and get beat up for 5 minutes, and there's not a single person who you were like, I can't wait for so-and-so to come stop this. If that isn't the surest indication that there's no star power. Could you imagine something like that happening during the Attitude Era? You would have heard glass break, and then the audience would have lost their ever-flippin' lovin' minds. But who would it be now? Like a blare of the bagpipes? Like, Here Comes Drew? The opening strains of the I mean, like, they're so far away from star power right now, and by design, right? Apparently it's been told that like we're never going to have another John Cena. That's not how we're doing things. Now they'll get away from that because wrestling, I don't care how much you think you're reinventing this shit. It's about stars and it's about people who they want to see. And yes, that means you have to give certain people power, individuals, performers power. It's going to have to happen because we're seeing right now what happens when you don't have it. In fact, the WWE has to acknowledge this. They are in a rebuilding year. And they're loath to do that, right? Everything they've ever done is, from the beginning, is we're the recognized symbol of excellence and like the world's watching us and like we're the shit. And then they're not then, now, and forever anymore. So what do I propose they change it to? Let me say off the rip that they would never do this, which tells me it's great. I wish I could have put this animation together for you, but instead I'm just going to have to describe it because I'm shitty at fucking computer shit still. But I'm getting better and I'm practicing with it. And I'm practicing with yet another feature tonight. But my idea is to simply have this. And it would be very temporary, but it would be an acknowledgement that we're in a crazy time. And in a lot of ways, the WWE has treated their fan base like dippity-doo fucking dog shit for a while. And this attitude that they have, I always say that like people are like, why do you like AEW so much? I like AEW because they like pro wrestling. We can argue about like, oh, but what they like about it is it's silly or it's these modern intonations that I don't. I'm just saying, as a general feel, they like pro wrestling. And they like the possibilities of it. And the WWE does not. They do it as a necessary evil. But they don't like doing it. The individual performers do. But you get a sense as a company, they don't. That it's a chore. And of course, it's work. But they've let it slip. They've let the mask slip enough that you can see the artifice of, I guess we got to keep cranking out these damn shows. That there's less of this vibe of, we're going to continue to do these shows for you. They may have said that out loud a time or two, but you don't get the feeling that they really believe that. So here's my thought. It says WWE Universe. Then you fade out. So you establish it. What's the WWE Universe? That's their fans, right? You fade out Universe, and then you have WWE. Then you take one of the W's and fade it out so it just says we. So that alone is an indication of like, it's us together, right? Then you move that we over, and then you flash these things next to the we. Need you. Miss you. We'll get through this together. So again, WWE Universe. Establish the fans are primary for you right now. Fade out Universe. Fade out one of the W's, so it's we. The WWE and their fans together, we. But the WWE is also saying, we miss you, or we need you. Acknowledge it. The Japanese business people, when Japan ruled the world, in spite of being a country that's about the size of California, with a much smaller population, by the way, at one point, the fact that they were a world power economically was amazing. And you know what it boiled down to? I have relatives there that own businesses, and they had this saying up. And I'm like, what did that translate to? I kind of loosely knew what the words meant, but what does that mean? And they explained to me, and it meant the customer is a god. In Japan, we don't pretend we don't need the customers. Maybe it's time the WWE does that as well. instead of just treating them and overtly saying they are commodities. We need you. We miss you. We will get through this together. The WWE will probably never do this or any version of this. Doesn't mean you can't. This has been Full Disclosure. Okay, I'm inserting this in the Full Disclosure videos because I totally forgot, even though I had it in my notes in big letters. I freaking got a thing to my post office box, and I'm going to unbox it because I just don't want to wait another week. So this is Geek Fuel. I've gotten these before. I don't think this is from the same person because they would have told me. Plus, this box looks different than the other ones that I've gotten. I don't know if that's a change that Geek Fuel's made or if the person got me a different level box or whatever. I don't care. I'm opening this box right now. Yay, let's open it. What do we got? By the way, if you ever want to send me anything, and thank you, that information's down below. Predator! Premium bobblehead. I can put it next to... It turns out it was Myron who sent me the Dr. Doom. What? The coolness, the coolness, the coolness. So I got this Predator. Oh, there's a book. Star Wars, The Art of Sideshow. So it's got all the freaking Star Wars stuff that you can collect. Holy guacamole. That is cool as hell. Oh my God. Pin Pals. Got the Hulk. What else is in here? These boxes are always just so cool. I'm going to take out all the little stuff. Geek Fuel. Love that. Steam game. So my kids downloaded or got one of these Steam games that has been given to me before and played it. This one's Chariot. We'll see if they like that one as well. Slurm. It's highly addictive. No idea what that is. Oh my God. My kids are going to flip for this. Bullet Bill. Because we play the Mario Kart game together. Because you can play kind of online against each other. And I'm obsessed with Bullet Bill. So this is super appropriate. But I saved the t-shirt for last. We'll do the reveal the same time for me as for you. Sweet coolness. Freaking Ant-Man shirt, which I'm sure my child will be stealing from me very soon. Anyway, thanks a lot to whoever sent that. Please let me know who it was so you can get credit. And I'm going to insert this into the Full Disclosure video now. And now back to the regular Full Disclosure. Just so you know, so I obviously tacked on the unboxing at the end. The reason that I didn't insert it in the video itself is because once I lined up all the pictures and did all that stuff, I realized if I inserted the video in there, then I would have to adjust all the pictures and all the times, and fuck all that. But the lessons still remain true, and special thank you to whoever sent me that geek box. It's wonderful. Fuck. Like, look at history, especially in wrestling, and look for the little details. And it doesn't matter the size of your indie. Doesn't matter if you yourself are the brand as a wrestler or a wrestling person. What's the way that you can be the most relevant and can get the most out of what you're doing? Something to think about. It's Full Disclosure. Now it's really done.